Hi, I'm Randy Wooden, and welcome to another in our Edge Library series. Today we'll talk more about networking. This is actually part 2. Part 1, we covered the beginning of that networking talk, and we left off at the point where the not the employer, but the person you're speaking with says, well, okay, here's the name of John Doe. And you go, great, I've got a name. What do I do with it? How do I parlay him sharing that name with me to getting an audience with John Doe? And there are a few things that I wanted to cover as it relates to that whole portion of the networking, and give you an example. If the individual says, well, I would talk to John Doe, I would first of all thank him. I would thank him for giving me that name. I think it's also important to ask, how do you know John? That'll give me some talking points, that sort of thing, little tidbits about how their relationship got started. So that's good to know. How do you know John? And secondly, why John? I mean, there are many people that you could have given me, and I appreciate you gave me John. What is it about him that prompted you to name him? And again, you never know. Keep in mind, the person on the receiving end of this thing knows I'm in a job hunt. I've told them that. Logically, they're looking at probably a couple of variables here, just like I would when I first thought to get in touch with this individual. They're thinking, okay, old Randy here needs a job. So if I'm going to help him, I need to give him ideally somebody who will talk with him and who is most apt to potentially be a hiring source. I've already told this gentleman, I'm not demanding that you give me a hiring source. I would like to speak to somebody who you know well and who you have a good working relationship with. So when he gives me a name, he's probably thinking, well, if I give him John Doe, John is, and then fill in the blank, John is an A-list person. John told me last week that his company had some changes coming up. Maybe he played golf with John Doe last week, and John said, hey, we just lost our manager of whatever, or you just don't know. So it's a good idea to ask. There's a reason he gave me John Doe's name versus potentially 100 other people. I want to try to find out why. Now, I may not learn why, and here's why he may not tell me. What if he knows that John Doe does have an opening? Let's say I'm in sales, and John Doe is maybe a sales manager. If my contact says, you need to go talk to John Doe because he has a sales opening over there, well, guess what? I may go in guns a-blazing, hey, I'm the greatest guy going, hire me because I'm a great sales guy. Well, it may not be that John truly has an opening. He might only be thinking about it. And my contact doesn't want to kind of get involved from the standpoint of thrusting me on a friend of his. And so instead, my contact might just sort of low-key things a little bit and say, well, I just think John's a good person to get to know. He seems pretty knowledgeable about the area. He'd be the kind of guy I would talk with if I were in that situation. I'm thinking, okay, great. At least I tried. So now my goal is to get in touch with John Doe. I'm going to go back to my contact right now while I have him, and I'm going to say, if John Doe is like you, no doubt he's busy. And I've got to think that if I just contact him out of the blue, I may have some issues maybe getting through potentially. I wonder if you could do me a favor. Yeah, what's that? Well, how about if you were to send him an email, or better yet, to even leave a message on his machine and just say that you and I are friends and we were brainstorming on some networking ideas because I'm in transition, and that John Doe's name came up, and that you thought it would be good to try to connect the two of us. Now, if it's an email, what you can do is you can say at the end of the email that I've copied Randy on this so that he can follow up from here. As a matter of fact, I'd even go ahead, I could send my connection a template email to use. What I'm looking for is a warm intro. I want somebody to introduce me and then get out of the way and let me handle it from there. My connection has done his good deed for the day. I don't want to bottle him up in trying to reach John Doe on a regular basis. I think just give me the name and allow me to, through email, to be connected to him. Then what I'll do is I'll get that email And I'll then forward that over to John Doe, and I'll say, well, John, I appreciate Mr. X connecting us, and was hopeful we might be able to get together for coffee or at some point to be able to get together and talk a little bit. That tends to work fairly well. It's a warm intro from somebody that we both know, and it does tend to work fairly well. So now, let's say you are face-to-face with this gentleman. How do you conduct yourself? What are some things you need to ask? And what if they have a job opening and it becomes an actual interview? So we'll cover that in our next segment. That's going to wrap up part 2 of Networking, the Edge Library series. Thanks for watching. I'm Randy Wooden.